Today we have, you can say traditional Russian, Ukrainian, that sort of part of the world recipe. And it's one of the classic lactic acid fermentation recipes. So we're going to make beetroot kvass. The word kvass is just means sort of like a soda. There are different types of kvass. People who heard the word kvass most probably know, especially like Soviet Union times, bread kvass was really, really popular drink. You can still find it in, Eastern European shops. Obviously, it is laden with sugar and it's just not uh, anything resembling the original drink. But it is a drink. So generally, you would make it with rye bread. I mean, you can make it with different breads, rye bread. I make it with sourdough starter as well, and sourdough bread that I make myself. I'm going to probably do a couple, three, we'll see. Where do I put it? I don't want it to mess up. There we go. So another type of kvass, if you joint, start cleaning your beetroot. Don't clean all of it yet, just a couple for now. Yeah, I will explain the principle where you would be able to adjust the volumes yourself. So another type of kvass is fruit kvass or berries kvass, or there's another thing as herbal kvass. Yeah, there's a combination of those. So there's different types of kvasses. There are vegetable kvasses as well. Similar to this kvass, there is Indian kvass, which is called kanji. It is usually made with purple carrots. But of course, if you live in the place where there's no availability of purple carrots, you can use normal carrots and some beetroot, for example, right? And the same spices and so on. So it's like a very versatile recipe itself, and you can make different interesting variations. So basically, vegetable, fermented vegetable, especially in London, I've seen a few places, fermented vegetable juices. Practically this. Yeah, I mean, different principle a little bit, but it could be one of the variations. You can make it like this. So I've got just two small beetroots. Probably gonna need the whole thing, I'm not sure, because I have like four of those small ones. So I'm cleaning my beetroot in the meantime, and most probably that beetroot itself is, and by the way, I'm using organic beetroot. The beetroot itself is packed with, it doesn't have to be organic though, yeah? Packed with nutrients. Very often nutritionists would suggest including this into your diet, right? I'm pretty sure you've all seen recipes like sweet recipes, like dessert recipes. I remember tasting chocolate cake or brownie, something like that, using cooked beetroot. It was really tasty. And if my friend didn't tell me that she used beetroot, I would never guess, honestly. Um, so beetroot is a very healthy root vegetable, but it's quite high in sugar content. And by fermenting it, we're going to reduce that, leaving all the goodness, preserving all the goodness, and adding some more goodness. Yeah, so the fermentation is this magical process where it enhances nutritional profile of your food. I'm just going to give it a really quick rinse. And I might need the rest of the beetroot. I'm not sure yet. So I'm going to share the principle. We'll probably write a few articles on Instagram about the benefits of this drink, but today is purely practical, exercise, practical life. Yeah, so we're just gonna make the recipe. I'm going to explain what, how, and so on. Also, In the following weeks, we are going to make another recipe using the beetroot. So, as you can see, I peeled my beetroot. You do not have to do this if you're not planning to use the beetroot later. However, I am going to use it for another recipe that we are going to make together. So that's why I pre-peeled that, so I don't have to, because we're going to cut it in pieces. So after, obviously, cleaning pieces is going to be the whole, the whole bother. So I'm not going to do that. So that's why I pre-peeled everything beforehand. Where's my jar? Oh, there it is. Also, I prepared almost 2 liters, 1.9 liter IKEA jar. I suggest taking glass jar, yeah, because fermentation is a quite acidic story, and we don't want all those chemicals to be leached into our, drink. We don't want extra toxins in our life. So it doesn't matter what size jar you've got. What is important is that, well, first of all, I cleaned the jar. I obviously washed it with hot soapy water, and I sterilized it by boiling my kettle over here and just pouring over the lid, over the washer, and over the whole walls, all the walls of the jar. Swished it around, the boiling water, and discarded it. That's it. Do not go in with clean paper towels or whatnot and dry it inside. Do not do that. Yeah, we don't want to introduce any foreign microorganisms. So this is more than enough. Right. So the principle is as follows. What you need to do is fill this jar, 1/3 of this jar, maximum half, but that's a bit too much. Yeah. So remember, we're not fermented vegetables here. We are fermenting the drink. So we are doing this for the drink. And what we need the vegetables for, to infuse the drink with all the goodness, and in our case, color as well, and taste, right? So what we're going to do is going to chop those beetroot. And remember another thing, that the smaller pieces you chop, the faster the fermentation will go, because there's more surface available for the bacteria to break down. We don't want to grate it, because most probably the fermentation will go too fast, and you might have unwanted activity like calm yeast or anything like that. Yeah, we don't want nothing like that, so we're going to chop. So please, if this is the first time you're doing this, just follow my my lead. Yeah. So 1/3 of the jar. What we're gonna do? Just going to. And by the way, let me move away a little bit. And by the way, you can use, apart from beetroot, you can add some root celery, for example. It adds this nice aroma. Yeah, I am going to add just a few cloves of garlic. I already peeled them, simply because I love garlic everywhere, right? You can use some herbs if you like. Maybe black peppercorns you want to use. Maybe you want to use something else, maybe some dill. Polish people, if you're Polish people love their dill. So you can put the stalks of dill in there as well, to just add some aromatics, or anything else that you think would work here. It really doesn't matter. So I've got quite small beetroot, so I'm going to probably do something like that. That's it. Goes in. Yeah. So we are trying to fill our 1/3 of our jar. It's irrelevant the size of the jar. It could be 5 liters, it could be 1 liter, it could be half a liter. So if you're starting, if the first time you're making this recipe, don't make big quantities, just make a little bit. Yeah, that will be enough. Maybe take 1 liter. And remember, I peeled my beetroot because I'm going to show you another recipe using the beetroot itself. So 1/3, maximum 1/2. But half, again, it's a bit too much. So I'm going to chop my garlic in 4, because generally this will be ready within 5-6 days, maybe a week. Yeah, depending. I will explain later. And garlic, usually garlic ferments for like 3 months. Obviously, we're not going to ferment the garlic completely, but we're still going to use it. And remember, as I said, the smaller the pieces, the faster things ferment. So I'm just going to chop my garlic like this. You don't have to, it can be just the whole thing. Yeah, it really doesn't matter. We're going to use it anyhow. Right? That goes in. Yeah, I need another beetroot. Another beetroot I need. I'm gonna quickly clean it. This is my, wait. I'm gonna compost this later. And so we will need, basically here, this is just beetroot, in my case garlic, water and salt. Yeah. When we talk about water, I would suggest not using tap water. Of course, depending on the country you're in. Yeah, if you are in Iceland, for example, you can absolutely use your tap water, because your tap water is amazing, right? I'm here in London and our water is super horrible from the tap, so I'm not going to use that. So something, at least dechlorinate your water if the only available water is the tap water for you, yeah? If you Google it, it will tell you how to do that. I'm not going to go around. I'm not going to go about it. So I'm going to need this. What we want, that's it, the chopping board is done. What we want is, clean my surface. We want kitchen scales, right? Because what we're gonna do now, could actually do a little bit more, but this is enough. Yeah, 1/3 is good amount. So what we're gonna do, switch on the scales, hopefully, zero it out, and pour the water. Gonna pour the water. So what we want to do is we want to, somebody needs more water. Just a second. More water is coming. With water, I've got filtered water. Yeah, I've got my filter, gravity filter, something like this. You don't need to fill your jar to the brim. Yeah, so this is more than enough. And important here is to know how the weight of water. So 1 liter, 141 milliliter. Yeah. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pour it back. Going to calculate. Don't have to do all of it. Yeah. Let's put this aside. So what we need to do is, while we are weighting the water for the reasons of calculating how much salt we would need. Yeah. So we here need around 2% salt per the weight of water. There can be different calculations per weight of ingredients, per weight of water and the ingredients. Could be very, very different. This is my method, yeah? There are different methods, so don't, let me stop you, use something else. 1141 times 2 divided, well, actually what I'm going to do is, you can use from 1.8% up to 2.5 in this recipe. I'm going to use 2.1 because that's my preferred level of salinity. Yeah, so we have all different preferences. And divided by 100. So 20, almost 24 gram of salt I need. And that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, so that's about, oh my God, what's happening here? We need gram, there you go. So we, salt. I always encourage to use natural, unrefined sea salt, maybe Himalayan sea salt, maybe some, if you're in Americas, you have amazing colored salts, amazing lake salts, yeah. Here in Europe, we also have different types of salts, natural salt. I mean, you will have good results with table salt as well, but it's just so depleted with nutrients, plus has anti-caking agents and God knows what else. So I don't like using that salt for anything at all in my kitchen. That's why, plus natural unrefined salt has almost identical amount of different minerals to the content of our blood. And we need all those minerals, for our health. So those are all essential minerals. So I prefer to make not just fermented food, but like super, super food. Yeah. 24. So I have this sea salt 24. 24 is around a little bit less than 2 tablespoons. Yeah, if you're using measuring spoons. 24. Oh my God, everything is falling. A little bit more. And to be honest with you, gram here, gram there, plus minus, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so it's not going to make a huge, massive difference. What we want to do now is dissolve this. Tablespoon can use. We want to dissolve this salt and then cover our beetroot. That's it. Obviously, when you ferment something, it's a very simple process. You just chop vegetables, you add some salt. Sometimes you use dry salting technique where you, massage the vegetables to release the juice, or you would make something like, just made it today morning, like carrot sticks, and you would use brine method. Yeah, so you would cover that with brine, and sort of similar that what we're doing here is covering it with brine. Yeah, and you want that brine you want to dissolve all the salt, so there's no such situation that where there's lots of salt at the bottom, no salt at the top. Yeah, so we want of course you can use put everything at once in here and shake that jar and dissolve the salt in that way. So use whatever technique, use whatever way you want. Yeah, that's whatever is comfortable for you. It doesn't really matter. What we need to know, yeah, it's very, very simple to create this recipe. We're going to close the lid and leave it at room temperature. But what's important to understand is what will happen later, right? Because very often you see things that, especially if you're first time fermenter or just new to this technique, you would be surprised or even scared about some of the signs of fermentation. For example, some bubbles or even like white foam, because this specific drink can create like white foam on top. And you might be thinking, oh my God, something is wrong. I need to throw this away. Yeah, this is something dangerous. It's off. It's not off. This is one of the signs of fermentation. Generally, I think that's it, no? You can taste it just to see the level of salinity, yeah? That's enough. There you go. Fantastic. Basically, we close our jar. This is it. But important what happens next. So our role as fermenters, what we do is we control the environment. In this case, in this jar, yeah, in our case. So we create the environment, because if we just leave those, well, actually we can leave these bits of beetroot peel just like that at room temperature. Oxygen is available. So just leave it on the table or somewhere outside, just like that. What will happen the pathogenic microorganisms that live here, right? So we, on the beetroot right now and on these peel, we have both good and bad bacteria, right? So pathogens and lactic acid bacteria. And depending on the environment that we will put these guys into, that's what we will have growing. So when we have oxygen available, there's obviously food and sugar available there. So the pathogens that are there, together with lactic acid bacteria, they will start breaking this down, because the environment is very hospitable for them. Lactic acid doesn't really like the oxygen, so they are kind of like slow and not as robust. And so pathogens will start prevailing. They will start consuming all the food, taking all that food away from lactic acid bacteria, and lactic acid bacteria will die eventually. And obviously, pathogenic microorganisms will grow in numbers and will make compost out of that. This is nothing wrong with the compost. Yeah, that's amazing, fantastic. But this is not the sort of goal in this case, right? So here, what we've done, we changed the environment completely. So for fermentation, for lactic acid fermentation, it's important to create anaerobic environment without oxygen. So what we've done, we have submerged everything under brine, thus restricting the oxygen and thus creating, plus we added some salt, which is another modulator of the environment. So it changes the environment. Pathogenic microorganisms, they don't really like the salt. But lactic acid bacteria are salt tolerant. So they are thriving. So as we speak, lactic acid bacteria have started fermentation process. Basically, that's what they do for life. That's their life, right? So they start breaking down sugars, carbohydrates in here, creating acidity, yeah, lactic acid, and creating energy for their own life and for their own growth. That's why any fermented food or drink has lots of different good bacteria for us. Some of them are probiotics, right? So we change the environment, and unlike here, the good bacteria starts consuming the food, and pathogens that are here right now, they are kind of sleepy. They're not as active. It's not really great environment for them. They need the oxygen to be robust and active. And so lactic acid bacteria starts prevailing and taking over, taking all the food, consuming all the food available, killing pathogens at the same time. Yeah, first of all, depriving them of nutrients, and second of all, lactic acid bacteria during the fermentation process releases lactic acid. And lactic acid is probably one most vital ingredient in our fermentation in any jar of fermented food. Because lactic acid is not just nature's own preservative that preserves the food for longer. Yeah, we all know that fermentation is a technique, preservation technique, yeah, used for more than 10,000 years. And so, we preserve our produce. So your cabbage, you preserve it for years to go if you make, well, at least 1.5 years, if you have refrigeration, when you make sauerkraut. Yeah, the same with kimchi. If it's cheese we're making from milk, that can stay there for years. Wine from grapes, and so on and so forth. Yeah, there's lots of things that we preserve still to give them longer shelf life, preserve their nutrients for longer. Yeah, so lactic acid is a preservative, nature's own preservative. Plus, lactic acid creates a very acidic environment, and pathogens, they hate it. They are not capable of surviving this environment. So when you taste your sauerkraut, your kimchi, your kvass, your whatever, the acid, the sort of acidity, the sourness should be there. That's a really good sign, right? Because that's a sign of safety as well. And so, this is not just going to be preserved and made into something amazing, but it also will be a very safe food to eat or drink, because all the known pathogens will be killed. So what we do next here, you're going to close this. I usually put some sign, some label here, at least the date and what it is, especially if you have lots of jars like myself, and lots of things like classes like this where I have made this and that, and different produce, and it's very useful to remember, to know at least when this was made. Obviously I know what it is. So we are going to leave this at room temperature, away from direct sun rays. The light is fine. You don't have to put it into cupboard or anything like that, yeah, because you're going to forget about it, it's going to rot, and it's just not a good story, not a good end. So somewhere on the kitchen counter where you will see that, where you will not forget about it. What you are going to do next, once a day, where's my tablespoon? There it is. Once a day, you're going to open this, yeah, and give it a stir. Give it a stir. Close it again. Before you give it a stir, you're going to have a look at the surface, because right now you see the color of your drink is sort of quite light. Yeah, it will be more saturated, so to say. So it's quite light. If you look at the light, it's not as saturated yet. Yeah. So because the beetroot with time will give more color to the drink, and it will be like really dark and almost like thick with color. So you are going to look at the surface, and we are looking for bubbles. Fermentation, the word fermentation comes from Latin fervere, and that means to boil. So when you have water boiling on the stove, you can see bubbles on the surface. That's the bubbles that we want to see here, right? So those usually, and for those who are on Instagram, you know, you will see all the process, all those things I will show in stories and then save it in highlights recipe, called recipes. If you're not on Instagram, I invite you to join my Instagram, because I will be showing and saving the whole process, the whole progress in there. Because especially if you're new to this, it can be scary, and things that we don't understand, our mind, our brain usually is afraid of those things. Yeah. So that's why I like to show everything, so you don't get scared and you succeed in your ferments. Because I want you to continue to ferment and you know, drink and eat some nice, tasty and healthy food for yourselves. So we are going to tomorrow open this, check for bubbles. In any case, if there are bubbles or not, we're still going to stir it once a day is enough to keep everything safe, right? So the minute we see bubbles, usually it's just, it can be even clusters of sort of white foamy bubbles. Yeah, sometimes very small, could be a bit bigger. It depends. But you will see the cluster, especially like in the middle, probably somewhere, the cluster of bubbles. So that's a really, really, really good sign. Plus, if you have this quite tight lid with the washer, when you open, it will do this psst, like hissing sound. That's a good sign, because during fermentation we have CO2s produced, and those CO2s, they do this, they make this sound. Yeah, that's again another really good sign that everything is going as planned, basically. So on day, probably depending on the temperature, optimal temperatures for this ferment is probably from 17 centigrades, 17 up to 24, 25 degrees. Yeah. Remember that fermentation is temperature dependent. So the higher the temperature, so if you have 24, 30 degrees, yeah, for America, that's like 65, or no, not 65, more. I'm not sure about Fahrenheit. Yeah, you can ask Google. But if you have in centigrades 25 and higher, this fermentation in this jar will happen much faster. But in optimal temperatures, and vice versa, if it's very, very cold, it might not start for a long time. So you're going to have to wait a bit longer. Optimal temperatures from 17 to 24 degrees centigrades. Third, fourth day, you should have good activity with bubbles and stuff. Yeah, so I mean, bubbles will come in a couple of days. Yeah, quite fast. But you just continue stirring this. That's all. And on day 4 or 5, we will attempt to taste. Again, I will show all this in the stories, because what will happen visually, first of all, when you, if you smell it right now, it doesn't really smell anything, yeah. But when you open this and it has bubbles and that CO2 release, you will feel the smell will be not really effervescent, because when we have a sweet drink here, yeah, like apple kvass, for example, with sugar, we have effervescence, sort of kind of like alcoholic smell-ish. Here we're gonna have different, more on the side of sauerkraut, probably something like that. Yeah, so it will, especially that I have you know, garlic here, it will kind of like somebody farted. Yeah, that's normal, absolutely normal thing. So, and it will smell very differently, will be very beetrooty and sort of earthy. Okay, so what will happen visually, your liquid, I need my tablespoon again, this is quite yeah, very weak color. I can't show you without spilling it. So this is quite a weak color. The color will become in 4 or 5 days. The color will become really dense, almost like thick. The consistency will still be water, yeah, but it will seem as if it's kind of thicker a little bit. Plus, when you taste, if you taste it right now, it's just salty water. You can't even feel, well, a little bit of beetroot hint, but what you will feel if you have ever eaten Russian soup, borscht, that's exactly 1000% exactly how it will taste. So it will be sort of sourness, there will be a little acidity, there will be kind of sweetness of the beetroot, and overly sort of like a umami, very tasty, not just salty water, but it will, the taste will transform, and it will be very different from what it is now. Again, I will walk you through step by step in the story, so do not worry about that. And probably, most probably next week, what is it today? Today is Wednesday. Probably beginning of next week, Monday, Tuesday, probably. We'll see when this is ready. I will do another live to explain again how to tell this is ready, okay? And when this is ready, we're going to strain. I'm going to show all that. Yeah, it will be another live. I'm going to strain the whole thing because this is the drink. That's what we want, right? We want the drink. And I will explain how to drink the drink because this is a um, very potent probiotic. Yeah, with a lot of goodness. So you do not want to start drinking like half a liter a day. Obviously, it's not enough to drink half a liter a day, but still, there's a certain formula where I would advise you to take this, starting slow and building up gradually. This is really good tonic for your blood, for your heart health. It really helps with digestion. It really helps with liver detox. Generally really very much. I like to take it just like a gut health shot. Yeah, like probably 150 ml, 100 ml, depends. Before food, like 15 minutes before food in the morning. It's just like a shot. It's really, really good. And what I usually do is I bake a lot of it, like 3-4 liters for myself, and then take sort of like 10 days or 15 days, like a course, to improve my gut health a little bit more. Yeah, obviously I eat and drink lots of fermented foods daily for over 10 years, but still, I like to do this from time to time, especially for girls, yeah, who still have periods. That's a really good thing to have after you had your periods. Like really, really nice. Like yeah, it will help with the blood flow and etc. etc. So I will explain how we drink this later, the next week. Yeah, and then we are going to make another recipe because for a long time I've been making this recipe for probably, I don't know, 10 years, maybe more. And in the beginning, I wouldn't clean my beetroot and would just throw it away. Because I was like, yeah, I don't know what to do with it. And even when I was cleaning it, it was kind of like, because in the soup, it's not really tasty because it gave all the goodness, all the flavors into the drink. So on its own, kind of like in the soup, if you cook it, kind of not really great. So we will discuss how to use this wonderful beetroot to make something else, another recipe. Well, you can do quite a few things, yeah, but I will show you just one thing, obviously explaining, giving you ideas on what else to do. This way you can ferment any vegetable that you like. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So we're gonna leave it at room temperature, away from direct sun rays, and I will invite you to my Instagram. The links, all the information I will give in the caption. Join it because that's where I'm going to be showing progress of this recipe, all the bubbles, how we define, like how we know what it's tasty or not, and so on and so forth. And that's where you also can ask me questions. You can ask me questions here in comments as well. Yeah, I will try to answer them as well. That's it. Beetroot Kvass.